Fred Film Radio, I'm David Martos. This is the 80th edition of the Mostra de Venezia, and we're here with Annabelle Dunne, producer of the CAINE Mutiny Court Martial by William Friedkin. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Friedkin is the name of the day, sadly, because he's not here. How would you describe this film in terms of his legacy?
You know, I think this film fits into a very specific pattern that Billy had, which was he knew exactly what he wanted to make from well before we ever got started. And he had a crystal clear vision of the script. He said it has to move like a bat out of hell, which in English, you know, very fast. and he made that happen on the page. And then he had a crystal clear vision of the actors he wanted. And it started with Kiefer Sutherland. And it went down from that. But Kiefer was his #1 choice for Queeg. We were so happy that Kiefer accepted it. And then we shot it incredibly quickly. It was on one set. Billy wrapped a day early. And he famously was a one-take director. And he really was a one-take director. Okay. Sometimes 2, 3, somebody's getting fired.
So this production was built up in a very fast, right? How was it born?
Well, Billy had read the play that Herman Wouk had written, and he knew that that's what he wanted to do. He did a similar thing with 12 Angry Men with Showtime. And so he said, you know, given my age and where I am in life, this format works for me. So we knew one location. I was talking to him the very first time, spring of 2022. We got very lucky. We took it to Paramount, and they bought it. We didn't need to spend a lot of time shopping it around, and they gave him carte blanche to do whatever he wanted to do, which was incredibly wonderful. So we were able to move quickly. So he worked on the script that summer, and we went into pre-production last fall, and then we shot for 3 weeks in January of this year.
Yeah, really fast. You mentioned this way of shooting he had, one take, maybe 2. What else could you tell us about how he behaved on the set? How was he?
He is, you know, beloved by his crew. And so he sort of famously has this reputation of a lot of bravado, and he did. But on set, he's beloved by his crew and his actors. And so he was insistent that everyone be off book with their lines. And so the actors would rehearse in the mornings, and then they really supported each other on set because they knew that they really needed to get it right the first time. But of course, if someone came to him and said, can I give it another try? Or would you feel okay if I tried it this way? Of course. He was always very, very good with his actors. He knew exactly kind of when to push and when to pull back and be gentle. So that was really how he was sort of like a quarterback.
Sounds like that. Could I ask you in which stage of the process Mr. Friedkin sadly passed?
We just lost him a month ago. We're so lucky for so many reasons. One, we finished on time and on budget. He finished early. So we wrapped in February. He then went right into his edit, and he did that very quickly with his editor. And we finished the film in the spring, way before all of these strikes. And, you know, so we were free and clear of any of the road bumps. And then unfortunately, you know, expected Billy to be sitting here. But yeah, so we were totally finished.
Okay, and finally, I would like to ask you about your plans for the film. The trip of the film begins here, but what else?
So it begins here, which is exciting for us because Billy loved this festival and had a great run with this festival. And then next month, October 6th, we premiere on Showtime in the States, all over that weekend. And then after that, it will be available on Paramount Plus, where those markets are in the world. And then I believe there's sales available for wherever Paramount Plus markets are not.
Okay, so we're going to be able to see it very soon.
Yes.
So Annabelle Dunne, producer of the film, thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you for doing this. Thank you. This was an interview for Fred, the Festival Insider. Fred Film Radio. I'm David Martos. This is the 80th edition of the Mostra di Venezia, and we're here with Kirk Petruccelli, which is the production designer of the CAINE Mutiny Court Martial by William Friedkin. Hello, how are you?
Very nice to be here. Thank you.
How's the day going?
It's fantastic. What a joy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the name of the director is over the whole day, right? You're remembering him today.
He's the reason why this is all taking place. It's in sadness he's not here, but we all have so much joy with him that it's an honor to be one of the people who can speak with him or about him.
How would you describe your professional relationship to him?
It was very simpatico. He was metaphoric in conversation. He was clear. He was loving to me and understanding of what I do for a living, and I understood what he needed. Mm-hmm. And together we basically wrote a song together, and it was this beautiful melody that we had to figure out how to make something what is dangerous and hard to talk about, something that's magnificent and powerful to bring to bear.
And how was the process that brought you to this story? Because I mean, you've worked in superheroes movies and in Lara Croft movies, and then this is a trial. This is basically a room on the corridor, right? I mean,
it's a very special room on the corridor.
Yeah,
it's the missing character or the hidden character behind them all, because in truth, the story Billy told is about this pressure, and this pressure is history, and what is greatness, and what does it take out of a person to become great, and the pressure that puts on someone. So the tradition of that, he said, is the U.S. Navy. And in this story, we created a space that not only told the story about history and the power of the naval force of America, but what that means to the people who are involved in a prosecution of something that is people who are warring at each other. It's an amazing thing that we were talking about.
How would you describe your conversations with Mr. Friedkin about, I would say, the classical look of the film? I mean, it's pretty classical, I would say. I was thinking about it when I was watching the film. Somehow it gives you like confidence in the institutions. Was that the path you were following when you were preparing the film?
It was. The confidence in the institution is everything. That's what drives the characters to a breaking point, because of the honor and tradition. To live up to that expectation is what I wanted and Billy wanted behind each character at every moment. It's beautiful to look at, but yet it means so much more than what it is. Again, the place in which to tell this story was the naval headquarters. It was based in reality, but a timelessness. Billy, what he wanted to do is create a story that you don't know when it happened, but it is contemporary. So there's layering of history within the space. The building itself was built because there is no court-martial. There has been no court-martial in America. So this is something that is, they wouldn't have a purpose-built room to have a court-martial. It's not a courtroom. What it was is where Admiral Nimitz would have prosecuted the war in the Pacific. And it had its time, but yet now there's an institution that now we reuse the space and recycle the space in order to create this court-martial, because they didn't see it coming. It's not purpose-built. It's never happened before. So he wanted to make sure that there was a tradition, but there was a disorganization. There's desks and chairs that we had to find in offices because they had to bring them into this empty room, which perhaps was a warehouse or storage room.
Yeah.
And so he wanted that it had a history. The paintings, the stories around the space were that of each era of the Navy and its greatness, from the 17th century, the 18th century, the 19th century, Vietnam era, to today in contemporary notions of who was involved and how important that tradition was, and how that weighs on somebody's character in order to become excellent and great. And that's the pressure behind each character.
And I would like you to talk about your relationship with the costume designer and the DOP, and how does that work?
Well, Michael Grady, the director of photography, was fantastic. We have to be in lockstep. Everything I do has to service the function of light. and we didn't have much time. I had 3 weeks to put the set together. I had 3 conversations with Billy to describe what we were going to build, and then we had to implement this. The costume designer was brought in as well, and we just wanted to say, our tones are nothing that you're going to have on the person. The naval uniform is blue. It's a slate blue with white and very pristine. Whereas ours was nicotined and warm values to counteract, to always be behind the crispness of the uniform. And everything that we wanted to provide was warm. There's a history here. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's inviting, but yet at the time, what it's really doing is causing heat because of pressure, because the situation is pressure. So there's a beauty to it, an artistry to it, but yet at the same time, there's a necessity for it within storytelling.
Okay. Well, this was a very interesting conversation with Kirk Petruccelli, a production designer in the film. Thank you very much for being with us today.
It's an honor.
Thank you. It's been an interview for Fred, the Festival Insider.